On August 9, 1910, New York City Mayor William J. Gaynor was shot in the throat at close range by James J. Gallagher, a disgruntled former city employee. The attack occurred aboard the SS Kaiser Wilhelm der Grosse as Gaynor was preparing to depart on a European vacation. This photograph, taken just moments after the shooting, captures the stunned expressions of those around him. Despite the severe wound, Gaynor miraculously survived the assassination attempt and continued his term as mayor. However, the injury contributed to his declining health, and he passed away 3 years later in 1913. After years in the underworld, Robert Beck, better known as Iceberg Slim, left behind a life of crime to become one of the most influential writers of the 20th century. His memoir, Pimp, The Story of My Life, published in 1967, offered a raw and unfiltered look into the world of hustling, captivating readers with its brutal honesty and poetic street language. By 1973, the book had been reprinted 19 times, translated into 9 languages, and sold nearly 2 million copies. Slim's writing not only shaped modern street literature but also influenced hip-hop culture and authors like Donald Goines. His works remain a cornerstone of American urban storytelling. In 1959, following the Cuban Revolution, Fidel Castro embarked on a goodwill tour of the United States, where he was initially welcomed as a charismatic leader. During this brief period, before tensions between Cuba and the U.S. escalated, Castro was treated like a celebrity, signing autographs, visiting a Missouri high school, and even appearing on the Ed Sullivan Show. He also met with then Vice President Richard Nixon, though the meeting was tense, foreshadowing the deteriorating relationship between the two nations. Within a year, the U.S. would impose economic sanctions on Cuba, setting the stage for decades of Cold War hostility. In 1950, photographer Ed Clark captured a young Marilyn Monroe in a series of candid and elegant portraits that showcased her natural beauty and effortless charm. At the time, Monroe was still on the brink of stardom, having just signed a contract with 20th Century Fox and appearing in minor film roles. Clark's photographs, taken before Monroe became the iconic blonde bombshell of Hollywood's golden age, reveal a softer, more introspective side of the actress. Just a few years later, she would become one of the most famous women in the world, forever immortalized as a symbol of beauty and glamour. In 1923, young girls eagerly practiced the Charleston, a dance that would soon become a symbol of the Roaring Twenties. With its lively kicks, energetic footwork, and jazz-infused rhythm, the Charleston captured the rebellious spirit of the flapper era. Originating from African American communities in the South, the dance gained national fame after its debut in the Broadway show Runnin' Wild. As the jazz age flourished, so did the popularity of the Charleston, making it a defining movement of the decade and an expression of newfound social freedom for young women. In the late 19th century, long, thick hair was considered a hallmark of beauty and femininity. This young lady proudly displays her luxurious tresses, which would have required meticulous care and regular brushing to maintain their health and shine. During the Victorian era, women rarely cut their hair, instead styling it in elaborate updos or braids. Letting it loose was often reserved for intimate settings or artistic portraits, symbolizing youth, beauty, and sometimes even defiance of societal norms. In this snapshot of urban life, residents of a Boston tenement gather outdoors to soak up the warmth of the sun. During the 1940s, tenement housing was home to working-class families, often in crowded and modest conditions. Moments like these, neighbors chatting, children playing, and people simply enjoying a rare break, were small but cherished escapes from the hardships of daily life. The image captures a time when community spirit thrived despite economic struggles, reminding us of the resilience and simple joys of the past. During the Roaring Twenties, flappers embraced bold and unconventional fashion trends, including the short hemlines that scandalized older generations. One quirky fad that emerged was the art of painting designs on their exposed knees. As skirts rose above the knee, daring young women decorated this newly visible skin with flowers, hearts, or playful patterns, turning their knees into canvases of self-expression. This trend, though fleeting, symbolized the rebellious spirit of the era, where fun, freedom, and fashion went hand in hand. In 1886, Apache leaders Nate and Geronimo stood at Fort Bowie, Arizona, before their final surrender to U.S. forces. Nate, the son of Cochise, and Geronimo, the fierce warrior who had long resisted Mexican and American expansion, faced an uncertain future. Following their capture, they and their followers were exiled to Florida as prisoners of war, marking the end of the Apache Wars. This photograph captures a solemn moment, the last stand of a people who had fought tirelessly to preserve their way of life. In 1944, Ava Gardner posed for photographer Clarence Sinclair Bull, capturing her timeless beauty at the dawn of her Hollywood career. Though still taking minor roles, including an uncredited part in Blonde Fever, she was beginning to gain recognition with films like Three Men in White and Maisie Goes to Reno. This was a pivotal time for Gardner, as she transitioned from a contract player to a rising star, soon to become one of the most iconic actresses of Hollywood's golden age. In 1944, Ava Gardner posed for famed photographer Clarence Sinclair Bull, capturing her elegance before she became a Hollywood legend. That year, she was still in the early stages of her career, with minor roles, including an uncredited appearance in Blonde Fever. However, she began gaining recognition with more substantial roles in Three Men in White and Maisie Goes to Reno. These early performances paved the way for her meteoric rise, leading to the stardom that would define her as one of the most captivating actresses of Hollywood's golden age. In the wake of the Tiananmen Square massacre, photographer Can Tai Wong risked everything to capture and smuggle out harrowing images of the crackdown. His photos provided the world with a rare and unfiltered glimpse into the violent suppression of pro-democracy protesters by the Chinese government. These haunting images, which China has since worked tirelessly to erase from history, remain powerful reminders of the courage of those who stood against oppression, and the cost they paid for their defiance. Captured by the Seeberger brothers, this enchanting photograph from the 1900 Exposition Universelle in Paris showcases young girls enjoying a carousel ride. The World's Fair was a grand celebration of technological advancements, cultural exhibits, and artistic achievements at the dawn of a new century. This image, frozen in time, reflects the innocence and delight of childhood against the backdrop of an era brimming with innovation and optimism. In 1976, Debbie Harry was on the cusp of stardom as the frontwoman of Blondie, a band that would go on to define the punk and new wave movement. With her signature platinum blonde hair, striking features, and effortlessly cool demeanor, she became an icon of the era. This photograph captures Harry in her early years, embodying the raw energy and rebellious spirit that would make her one of the most influential female rock artists of all time. In 1966, storing just 5 megabytes of data required a massive and cumbersome setup, a stark contrast to today's tiny flash drives and cloud storage. Large disk packs, often seen in early mainframes, housed this data in room-sized computers, emphasizing the technological limitations of the era. What once took specialized equipment and an entire team to manage can now fit effortlessly on a device smaller than a fingertip, highlighting the rapid and astounding progress of digital storage technology. In 1975, a U.S. Senate investigation, led by the Church Committee, exposed one of the CIA's most sinister Cold War inventions, a silent, battery-powered gun capable of firing toxin-laced darts. The weapon used shellfish toxin, one of the deadliest known poisons, to induce an undetectable heart attack in its victims. The tiny dart could pierce the skin almost painlessly, leaving no trace upon autopsy. This revelation was part of a broader inquiry into covert CIA activities, shedding light on the agency's controversial assassination programs and chemical warfare research. In the harsh winter of 1942, deep in the forests of Novgorod, a young child stands among the ranks of the Soviet partisans. These resistance fighters waged a relentless guerrilla war against the German occupation, carrying out sabotage missions and ambushes behind enemy lines. Children, often orphaned by the war, were sometimes recruited as scouts, messengers, or even combatants. Their small size allowed them to slip through enemy lines undetected, playing a vital role in the Soviet resistance. This haunting image captures both the resilience and tragedy of a generation forced to grow up too soon. On January 31, 1993, David Glenn Lewis, a respected lawyer and former judge, mysteriously vanished from his home in Amarillo, Texas. His wife and daughter returned to find the TV on, his wedding ring and watch left behind, and a turkey sandwich uneaten in the fridge. Nothing suggested he had planned to leave. That very same day, in the remote town of Moxie, Washington, over 1,600 miles away, a man walking along a highway at night was struck and killed in a hit-and-run accident. With no identification, he was buried as a John Doe. For 11 years, the two cases remained separate mysteries until a forensic investigator connected them in 2004. Dental records confirmed the hit-and-run victim was none other than David Glenn Lewis. How he ended up in Washington, why he left Texas, and what happened in his final hours remain unanswered. His case continues to baffle investigators, leaving behind more questions than answers. In 1938, as tensions rose following the Munich Agreement and the First Vienna Award, Czechoslovak SOS, Strez Obrany Statu, border guards prepared to defend their homeland against Hungarian aggression. This image captures a group of these guards stationed on the Maria Valeria Bridge in southern Slovakia, a strategic crossing that linked Czechoslovakia with Hungary. As Hungary sought to reclaim territories lost after World War I, border clashes erupted, culminating in the annexation of southern Slovakia and Carpathian Ruthenia. Despite their determination, the Czechoslovak forces were outmatched and forced to retreat. This moment stands as a testament to the resilience of a nation caught in the geopolitical upheavals of the late 1930s. In 1940, German occupiers demolished the monument of Adam Mickiewicz in Krakow, Poland. Erected in 1898 to honor the revered Polish poet and national hero, the statue symbolized Polish identity and resistance. Its destruction was part of a broader Nazi campaign to erase Polish culture and history. The monument was eventually restored and unveiled again in 1955, standing as a testament to Poland's resilience and enduring national pride. This haunting class photo, taken on June 2, 1942, captures Czech second-grade children from Lidice, just 1 week before the village was brutally erased by German occupiers. Following the assassination of SS officer Reinhard Heydrich, the Nazis retaliated with extreme brutality. The men were executed, the women sent to concentration camps, and most of the children were murdered in gas vans. Of the entire child population of Lidice, only 17 survived. This image stands as a tragic reminder of wartime atrocities and the innocent lives lost. During the grueling siege of Leningrad, Soviet civilians gathered around an unexploded German SC-1000 bomb in 1943. The city endured relentless bombings, starvation, and unimaginable suffering for nearly 900 days as Nazi forces attempted to break its resistance. This chilling image reflects both the peril and resilience of Leningrad's people, surrounded by destruction, yet undeterred. Their survival against overwhelming odds remains one of the most harrowing chapters of World War II. In October 1959, mourners gathered in West Germany to bid farewell to Stepan Bandera, the exiled leader of the Organization of Ukrainian Nationalists, OUNB. Bandera, a polarizing figure in Ukrainian history, was assassinated by a KGB agent using a cyanide gas pistol in Munich. His death marked the culmination of years of Soviet efforts to eliminate nationalist leaders abroad. Even in death, Bandera's legacy remained divisive, viewed by some as a hero of Ukrainian independence and by others as a collaborator with Nazi Germany.